How y'all doing? Good, good. Let's just go. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Zach.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy October. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Let me get my cheat sheet up here. So Hunter is out of town. He's in, I don't know where he is, but he's at Trendsetters, which is we talked about this before. This is something that Parks did for a while, or for, gosh, the last probably 15 years. And so I think he's going to come back with some really good stuff. So it's a group of brokerages across the country, and they all get together at least twice a year. And they basically, everybody has to bring their best idea.
And they're all kind of tops in their field.
They're all tops in their field. It's not just any Joe Schmo brokerage, right? And so it's really cool to have some representation in that, because I've been to that twice over the years, and it's really awesome. It's a great way to just, one, collaborate. We talk about collaboration a lot. And so you're collaborating with your peers in the field. Everybody's bringing their best idea that they've tested. I don't know what Hunter's idea is. He didn't tell me this time, so I'm not upset about that, don't worry. But he is, but he's going to have a really good idea, I think, and then he's going to bring back a lot of other good ideas.
I think we're going to be busy the next 6 months.
I think we're going to be busy, so it's really cool. They also, this is a little bit scary. I think we may have mentioned this too, but once a year, one of the brokerages basically gets chosen to get critiqued by everybody else. And so they spend 2 days and they interview staff and brokers and agents, and they're like, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? What's going well? What's not going well? And then they bring this big, kind of report back to whoever's brokerage got critiqued. And one of the funny stories was, there's one guy, this was years ago, but I forget what brokerage it was, probably shouldn't name names anyway. And he said, they said, there's a problem with your marketing. And the guy said, yeah, I know. They said, you're going to have to fire your marketing person. He said, I know. It's my mother-in-law. But you know what? This has given me the ability to be able to do that and to tell her that that's just not her spot. But, he couldn't, because it was her mother-in-law, it's a little tricky, yeah. So, so at Village, we talk about this a lot, right? Our goal is always to help you find and achieve your definition of success. Everybody has a different definition of success. And I found this quote by Winston Churchill that says, success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. So I'm going to skip a couple things real quick and show you this, because I thought this was kind of fun and proves it well. I feel that excited when I get something,
I wish I could do that now.
Finally down, yeah. So
like me with short sales.
That's you with short sales. Yeah, it's like flopping it over.
Back in 2011.
Yeah, back in 2011. It's hard.
Flashback.
Hard stuff. What are y'all grateful for today? Who's got anything they're grateful for? Cooler weather, I know. Oh, I saw something on the forecast this week. Was I crazy? Did I see it was going to be in the 90s again?
It was while you were gone.
Whew.
It got really hot.
What else? Come on, y'all. Some gratitudes we got. I know they're coming.
At least Oktoberfest, October beer at least. Nothing?
That's
No?
right.
Pumpkin spice lattes.
Pumpkin spice lattes? That's good. Well, I'm grateful. My dad passed away about 20 years ago, but today was his birthday. He'd be 82. So it's a picture of him on the left. And I did something crazy that felt like that skateboarder. I was actually a little scared I was going to end up like that skateboarder, but I've never ridden a motorcycle before, and I took a 4-day trip around Yosemite National Park on a motorcycle, which felt nuts to me. But
you're here with all your fingers and
yeah, you can't see the big scrapes right here, but overall it was pretty good. Way easier. Has anybody ever ridden a motorcycle? A couple people. It was definitely easier than I expected. Although there were a couple times we got on like highways, and it was more than slightly terrifying going around a turn. And even though there's like the yellow line, having another car come around, and I was like, ah.
Stay,
So,
stay in your lane.
It was a lot of fun and super rewarding. So that was pretty good. But all right, so some news. So October, we'll change that to October. Teddy, you're live and in person. You want me to do the video, or you want
Let's
to
run the video.
Let's run the video. Teddy's here.
It's comprehensive.
All right, sounds good.
Good morning, Village. It's Teddy Pins, and it's October 5th, Tuesday. I'm going to see you at 10:30 today for hard conversations. Like, somebody else will do it for 1%, or the builder's only paying 1% commission, or why do you charge a retainer fee? What is that? Setting boundaries, all the good stuff today. 10:30, hard conversations with a hard person. Tomorrow, Thrive, which is always great. 9 o'clock. Please join us. We'd love to see new faces. And then Thursday, V-Lab, we've got Pricing Pros with Rebecca Cooper, so great way to brush up on your CMA skills. Got some great outside education in the email, Understanding 1031 Exchanges, October 5th. Property Management Basic Policies and Procedures, Friday the 8th, that's all through GNR. And Residential Rehab next week, so look into that. Also, some great parks education coming up too. I really encourage you to jump into those parks links. They've got an awesome education program, and all that is available to you as well. We've got Email Marketing Basics with Nancy Emiker on Friday, October 8th, and the Basics of Land Sales. The Basics of Land Sales with Ron Jones. That's Monday, October 11th at 10 a.m. Not sure how to get to all that? The education email will keep you up to date. Oh, that tech tip. Oh yeah, tech tip. Got a nice one today. You can triple tap the back of your phone to turn your flashlight on, rather than have to scroll through and do your shortcuts. And I'm going to post a link on how to do that. I'm not going to take you through that right now, but you basically go through a phone, through a shortcut on your iPhone. You can Google how to turn your flashlight on with a double or triple tap. Pretty cool and quick and efficient, because as we know as realtors, we're using that flashlight a lot. Hey, don't mind the noggin. The rearrangement of some furniture left a picture that fell down on my forehead this morning in the middle of the night. And that was a goodie, so didn't hang the picture, it was just temporarily propped up. Left myself with a nice wake up this morning at 3. Have a great day, y'all. Appreciate you. See you at 10:30 today with Hard Conversations. Take care.
So there's all right, so Jeremy, I emailed you a link if you want to post it in the chat. This was I've watched a lot of you, and I'm sure at home a lot of you were trying to tap your phones. It doesn't just happen. You have to set up a shortcut to be able to do it, because I imagine there's probably times that you wouldn't want that to happen because it would just run your battery down. But pretty cool. There's a whole shortcut thing. So there's a link. Jeremy, if you got that email from me this morning, there's a link in the there'll be a link in the chat that he can put in there. It's on a website called howtogeek.com.
It is. Yeah.
How to Geek.
You can do anything. You can have it open real tracks. You can
Open
have it
real
call
tracks?
Somebody, everything. iPhone's really known for its accessibility features and the customizability of that. There's some amazing things with AirPods too, so I've found a whole new treasure trove of tech tips that will be coming to you.
Ooh, lots of tech tips coming. Thank you for keeping us up to date. So that is the link, but it's a long link. So if you just Google How to Geek, how to turn on your flashlight by tapping your iPhone's back, I'm sure that will come up as well. But Village Education, which just went through a lot of that. I'm super excited about this class today, because we get this question as brokers. We get this question a lot, a whole lot. Hey, how can I win this deal? Somebody else is charging less. Well, we're not a commodity, right? I mean, it's
not racing to the bottom.
Right. This is not trying to, like, everybody does things a little bit differently, and there's a really plausible way and good way that you can sell your service, assuming it's good, which I know it is. Then you can do a good job with that. And the whatever savings is, whatever people think they're saving on a commission basis, it's almost always there's almost always a way that you can justify and prove that they can make more money net-wise in the end. I had this happen not too long ago, in the last year or so with a deal, and it was, and unfortunately I didn't even get an opportunity to talk to the person again. But they basically said, "Hey, I'm hiring somebody else who's charging less." I went back and I looked at that sale. That agent did not know about 3 off-market properties in the same development that were selling, and she lost almost $20,000 in net, because this other agent just looked up what was in the MLS from a few months before, told her those are the comps. It sold in a day, obviously, because things had sold for $15,000 to $20,000 more that weren't even on the MLS. So bummer for her, bummer for me as well. But it's there. It's very real. So check that out. Ninja, this was full. This is coming out on October 12th to 15th. That's next week. I think next week. Yep. And so it was full. One person had something come up and they had to bail. So there's one spot left. If you want that spot, talk to me right after this, because
Don't wait.
we can get you filled up, but that will fill up today. So the next one is in April of 2022, which is not that far away. So April 12th to 15th, 2022. Congrats to everybody who's done Ninja so far as well. Hey, Karen, look at you. You got your hunter thing.
Look at that. I know.
It's pretty awesome.
Don't get too excited.
Don't get too excited. So, all right, so we're going to talk about birth rates, I guess.
Couple of weird things. I don't know if you guys follow NAR. They are great with stats, and they have an economist that has a blog, and every week they post what's on their mind. What's on their mind this week is a nearly unbelievable data point, the birth rate. Did you know we had the lowest birth rate last year since we started keeping records?
Really?
And if you look, that was 1909. So the interesting part on that is it cut across all age groups, all ethnic groups. It didn't matter. Everybody's having less babies.
So what do you attribute that to?
Well, we don't know if it's a trend yet, but this is 2 years. So it'll be very interesting to see if it continues next year.
Okay.
But if it is a trend, most likely we're going to attribute that to the economic conditions going on
So what
right
do you-
now, the pandemic, if
Yeah.
you will.
So what do y'all think
Some
about that?
of
Is it, do you like chime in here? That's we make a living based on people having roofs over their heads, right? And so if there are fewer people, in theory, that could be fewer roofs. What do y'all attribute that to?
Economy and like Earth sustainability.
Earth sustainability, the economy, stress, just
Uncertainty for the future.
uncertainty for the future.
Having to educate your kids on Zoom this year.
Having to educate your kids on Zoom.
Would you like
Yeah.
to do another
Too
one?
much time with your spouse.
Spending too much time with your spouse. So one would think, like, sometimes there can be like a big snowstorm and it locks everybody in for a few days, and then there's like
That's
a
all-
baby boom after
that's
that. But
right.
like for like a year and a half, that just
That's right. It goes the other way.
goes the other way.
It goes the other way.
Like in fact, that sometimes creates two households out of those situations.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes,
We've
yeah.
seen it, but it's interesting. The decline is being mirrored in the home buyers with children in the marketplace. For example, in 1985, 58% of the buyers had children under the age of 18. 1985. Today, only 33% of home buyers have children under the age of 18. So it impacts current buyers' decisions to buy right now, what they're going to buy right now. It also impacts what they will do later on.
Yeah.
Because as we know, what motivates people to move, change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think age of women, more women working in professional jobs. This is not this is a long-term multi-decade trend, right?
Right.
We're not in the 1950s anymore, and so my wife is a nurse practitioner at a fertility center here in Nashville, and so she sees a lot of women who are didn't have kids in their early 20s and are deciding to have kids for the first time in their early to mid 30s, and sometimes that can be a little harder biologically. I don't understand. She could talk all day long on that, but I think that sometimes that can affect things as well. So I love having more women in the workforce, but I guess that's a side effect too. So
It's a little bit of everything. We have,
Yeah.
it's taking longer for people to form households, taking longer to get student debt paid off, taking longer before you get married. So it makes sense that it would be longer before people start having children.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. Keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on that stat for the next year. See if we really have a trend on that. Do you know the biggest population? Who are the most people out there that in the U.S. right now? The biggest
30-year-olds, huh?
Yeah,
what it looks
millennials
like?
now are the dominant force out there. So there are more people in that, and this guide, we're saying that's 22 to 40 are millennials, and then those are broken down, young millennials and old millennials. But they now are the biggest buying group out there. And so what does that mean? So some myth-busting little bit of myth busting about the millennials. The first one is they don't want to buy a house, but they're the largest adult generation today, and they made up 37% of all the home buyers last year.
Okay.
So they're buying houses
So
right now.
more than one out of every 3 home buying transactions was a millennial.
Was a millennial. This might be a surprising number. A good percentage of them got their down payment from a house they sold. So they
Interesting.
weren't
Okay.
first-time home buyers.
So not first-time home
necessarily.
buyers. All right, so second
So
home
that's
buyers.
that's another myth.
So
out
they've
there.
been now a lot of that has to do with the market, right? We've had a really good ride, so they've been able to ride this sort of market wave, get some good appreciation, and then parlay that into a bigger house
a bigger house.
for.
And where do you think they bought that bigger house?
What are my choices? Cities, suburbs, or things like
Cities,
that?
suburbs, others.
What do y'all think?
Suburbs.
In the suburbs.
Most of them bought in the suburbs. Some of it has to do with the size of
Okay.
house they could get. They could get a little more for their money.
So this trend of moving back into the city, we had this huge sprawl in the sort of 60s to 80s, and then we've been moving back into the city, but now maybe it's balancing out a little bit.
Right, and one of the reasons is student debt.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, this age group they purchased homes that were 19% less expensive than people who didn't have student debt.
Okay.
So they're still buying. Yes, they have student debt, but they're still buying. They're just not buying quite as much. So maybe that's why they're looking at suburbs
Okay.
and
Interesting.
small towns. That's the other trend to keep your eye on. They're also moving to smaller towns.
Smaller towns, especially in the work from home situation, right? I can
Right.
live anywhere. Why not live in Aspen or what? Well, they probably can't afford a house.
Probably
in
not
Aspen.
asking.
Bad example. But yeah, smaller towns. If you work from home, you can have sort of balance that quality of life versus still getting paid by the bigger city. So what are some of these stats?
So the NAR Home Buyers and Home Sellers Survey, they do this every year and have for about 35, 40 years. It's probably the best bank of data that we have on what people look like out there who are buying and selling homes.
Okay.
Who are these people? First-time home buyers last year made up 31% of the buyers, down from 33% the year before. Probably a couple of things there. Again, pandemic, uncertainty about economic security might have been it. Also, almost everywhere the house prices rose last year. So that could be why we're seeing a few less people in the marketplace. So even though our majority population is now between the age of 22 and 40, the typical buyer last year was 47 years old. So a little bit older.
This next one is cool. 44% of those who bought new construction wanted to avoid renovations.
So we're all addicted to HGTV, yet we don't want to do them ourselves.
So we like the new stuff, but the idea of doing it ourselves, moving out, just too overwhelming.
Take that time because they can put a little bit down and not have to worry about down money.
They might not have as much down payment, so they can put some money down, still get something new, and then again not have that surprise cost later.
They don't have to worry about a roof, an air conditioner,
Yeah.
water heater, those things. That could be it.
But there's probably an education opportunity in there from us of, hey, what are some renovation trends that, what gives you the highest and best resale, right? You always hear kitchens and bathrooms, sort of best bang for your buck. But really helping people understand what's involved with that. Maybe if you know a contractor that's really good, just putting people in touch with that. Obviously we make a living not on renovations, on purchases, so this is probably a good stat for us that people don't want to do renovations, but I think if somebody needs help with that, I think we can provide that. 35% of those who bought resale thought it was a better value.
Yeah, so they looked around, they saw what new construction consisted of, they thought the better value, possibly location. It didn't dive too deeply into that, so location could have played a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why they bought resale. I think often people, when you buy new construction, don't think about the added cost of the blinds, the window treatments. They don't necessarily come with a brand new refrigerator or a washer and dryer. Maybe you need a fence for the dog and the kids.
That stuff adds up.
So it can add up pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
on those. I thought this next one was interesting. The typical home last year was 1,900 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house built in 1993. You can see that we have a little bit of an aging stock there. I know Hunter's talked about that a lot, but we haven't had enough new builds. I didn't throw this one up on the board, but the top reason for moving before COVID, according to NAR, the top reason for years has been to be closer to friends and family. Post-COVID, do you know what the number one reason people moved?
To get away from friends and family? I don't know. What?
A bigger house.
A bigger house.
So it's completely counterintuitive.
Which
to
is
our
kind of like
declining-
getting away from
Yeah,
family.
it's like, so we have a decline, we're not having as
Wanna
many
hide.
kids. But we all need a bigger house. So maybe good times are still ahead for us, who knows?
Who, just show of hands, who had a transaction in the last year and a half that was solely due to somebody's like housing needs changing because of COVID? Almost everybody. Isn't that wild? I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about, I don't know if I've talked about this before, you've got some neighborhoods, like, these are big shifts. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the neighborhood I'm in, it was built in the 1920s. There was a streetcar on West End Avenue. The houses closest to West End Avenue are the biggest, grandest houses. Every block off of West End, you're a little further from the streetcar, kind of pre-mainstream automobile, right? And pre-air conditioning, so you had taller ceilings, front porches for people to cool off at night. A few blocks over is a 1940s neighborhood, post-air conditioning, post-automobile. There's no front porches. There's no sidewalks. It is fascinating how these just neighborhood and housing trends change based on the environment. And I
A
think-
shift. But that's
yeah.
definitely a shift because being closer friends and family has been the number one reason for a decade.
Absolutely, yeah.
And suddenly the house is too small.
Yeah. So what are y'all seeing? What are your, for those of you who, and that was almost everybody who helped somebody buy a house, is it almost always more space or more functional space? What was it?
More yard.
More yard, more outdoor space. All right. What else?
Dedicated workspace.
Dedicated workspace. All right, so yard, dedicated workspace.
Going from like an open concept to like having less.
Open concept to
Yeah.
God give me walls,
Yeah.
so I can bang my head against them.
If you've been to some new construction lately, you're starting to see
Yeah.
a switch back to a little more defined space. You still have a big living room that's open to the kitchen, but you're seeing more defined spaces
Yeah.
for sure.
Sometimes bedroom suites on opposite side of the house
Uh-huh.
from other bedroom suites.
Could be.
Yeah.
May or may not be for the mother-in-law that comes to visit.
That's wild. 88% of buyers used a real estate agent. 91% would use them again. 73% only met with one agent.
I thought that last number was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That 73% only met with one agent.
Uh-huh.
So you have a pretty good chance of landing that buyer if you can set up a meeting.
Good work. So I like that.
89% of sellers used an agent. 91% listed in the MLS. I know we talk a lot about private listings, off-market listings, and that sort of thing. But 91% of sellers out there listed in MLS. And again, we see this number again, 77% only met with one agent.
All right. So I think we're the reading between the lines on that, you don't, like there's, in a lot of the education, I remember when I first took my pre-licensing class, there was a lot of focus on, how to prepare yourself, and somebody's going to interview 3 agents and ask you all these questions. The reality of that doesn't happen that often.
Not that
I don't think that takes away the need to be prepared, right?
Yeah.
And to show your value. And I think you're going to learn a lot about that and why that's important on the class after this that Teddy's teaching. So FSBO average sales price $217,900, and then agent listed average sales price $242,300.
Oh, that was an interesting one. Kind of blends into what you were talking about. Yeah, I can find somebody to do it cheaper. You might be losing money
Yeah.
on that. So I know everyone can calculate commissions pretty quickly. If for some reason you can't, let's say if that was an equal house, and we don't know if that was an equal house or not. These are national numbers, of course. You still would have made, if this is true, the same house, you still would have made over $10,000 listing with an agent.
It is wild. I mean, just looking at your value, there was a house, we have an agent here there was a house that I drove by that sign. It was a for sale by owner sign for years. I mean, it was probably 2 years. And it was kind of a cute house on the outside, but it was just dated on the inside. This agent bought it with a builder that she worked with, And they were gonna renovate the whole thing. They ended up just kind of doing a very, very light renovation, like painting and redecorating and staging, and sold it with multiple offers for I think over $200,000 more than they bought it for.
A little
like-
more than the paint and carpet cost, probably.
Way more. Yeah, it's just like if that for sale by owner had actually met with an agent, a good agent who'd given them the good advice, this is what we need to do, they could have done really well.
Could have
So
done it. And a high percentage of for sale by owners sell to somebody they know. So the for sale by owner figure is a little bit elusive, I guess you would say, because they already have identified somebody and they're just selling to a friend or family member.
yeah,
So it's really even less than that number.
that's great.
represents.
So what we got here? Is this yours?
No, this was Hunter's from last time.
All right. So we'll just skip all that. This is all Hunters from last week? All right, we'll skip all that. So mortgage rates. Connie, what do you got here? You want to come up?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Rates are up a teeny bit.
So
Fine.
we're starting with a 3 in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Is that freaking anybody out?
No. I mean, rates are still good. Come on, it's 3%. But we are seeing that they are starting to tick up a little bit. So, I mean, really the best thing you can watch is like the 10-year Treasury. As you see that climbing, you're going to see the rates starting to increase a little bit. But I mean, the ARM rates are actually lower.
Yeah.
now.
For almost a year, we had ARM rates above a 30-year fixed rate, which
Yeah.
was bizarre.
Kind of crazy.
So ARM rates are lower, and the average hold time, that's probably in the stats somewhere, but the average hold time, especially if millennials are the largest buying group, the average amount of time that they hold their house, I would guess, is probably 7 years,
Yeah.
if I was guessing. I don't know that stat, but probably somewhere in that range, and so an ARM is not a bad choice. But then even a 15-year, that's a big delta between the 15 and the 30-year, bigger than is typical.
Yeah.
So anybody have anybody doing 15 years lately? Yeah? A couple of y'all?
Yeah.
Are you seeing more of that?
We're seeing, we have a lot of interest. People ask about the 15-year, and the rate is so much lower, but then when you give them the payment, it's still so much higher. But the 20-year is a great option.
Oh, a 20-year, okay.
Yeah,
So
so-
20-year rates are probably just a little bit higher than 15, but lower than 30?
They're- Sometimes there's the same as a 30 or maybe an eighth of a point less. You save a little bit on a 20-year, but you've just got that lower amortization, and it's a nice in-between. It's not so much of a sticker shock on the payment.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's good. What else? You have a new product coming up. It's a
Yes.
jumbo product, right?
Got my little cheat notes here. Yeah, so we've got a new investor that we've signed up with for jumbo, and basically with conventional loans, we always try to. It's just an easier process than a jumbo loan. Usually the rates are so much higher in jumbo, and we've got they're just stricter guidelines, so it's harder to get someone approved with lower debt to income ratios. More reserve requirements. There's a lot that goes on with a jumbo loan that just makes it a lot stricter and a lot harder to qualify for, and it takes longer because we have to send that loan to the investor and have it underwritten. Well, we've got a new investor that's we can underwrite them in-house, so it really cuts down that time, and the biggest thing is we can follow the approval for a conventional loan. So we run it through the system just as if we're doing a conventional loan, and we can pretty much follow those guidelines for this jumbo. And so it's loan amounts up to $2 million, 90%. Well, it's 89.99%. I don't know why, but they always do that kind of weird thing. Anyway, so pretty much 90% with no mortgage insurance. So.
All right, so
$2 million.
what determines, just to help everybody understand, so you've got somebody, house prices are up.
Yeah.
What's that? Where is that line of when somebody needs a conventional loan versus a jumbo loan? What's that?
So conventional loan in most counties, and pretty much, most of Tennessee, it's 543,250. There's
5432.
250.
5432. 5.
250.
It'd be
Yeah.
great if it was 1, but
So but you can go to a high balance conforming amount to 586.5. So 586,500 is the high balance conforming in Davidson County, Williamson, some of the surrounding counties that allows us to go a little higher. Anything beyond that is 586,501 is a jumbo.
okay.
All right. So then you get into all of these other guidelines.
And that's loan amount, not purchase price, correct?
Loan amount, correct.
So this is actually really important because if you're talking with a buyer, one, make sure that they're talking to their lender. If you're in that sweet spot, there might be some negotiating that you can do on the buy side. You know, maybe the buyer's saying, "Oh, let's ask for closing costs." Well, maybe you don't ask for closing costs because
Right.
because that might increase the total purchase price a little bit into a jumbo territory, which will change the setup.
Yeah, so this loan, again, will go up to $2 million at that 89.99% loan to value with no mortgage insurance. I priced one this morning just to get an idea. So on a 30-year fixed with no, again, it's no MI up to $2 million. It's like 3.5%. At that 90% level, if we drop it down to 80%, the rate's at 3%. It's the same as a conforming.
Okay.
So that's really
So
good.
down payment really affects the rate on a jumbo more than
Yeah.
a conventional?
And I also priced the 5-year ARM at 2.625.
So you can go do a jumbo arm.
Jumbo ARM, yep.
Okay.
With 20% down, 2.625. So I mean, it's a really strong program.
Are you,
Credit score you need?
Yeah, the credit scores on this, these credit scores on these rates I priced, like a 780. But the program matrix will actually let us go down into the 600s. I think it was like 680. So it does allow us to do that again, as long as we can get an approval.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Connie.
You're welcome.
Good info. Good info. Kindy Hensler, you want to come up? We got an agent spotlight with Miss Kindy Hensler today. You can find a good comfy seat over there, and then we'll start the interrogation.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for asking.
So, all right. So you are an agent, and you've had a sort of a really cool career history, right? So you grew up in Florida,
Yes,
and you were an attorney for a while.
I was.
So you practiced as an attorney. So Loy Carney did that. Loy, you're around, right? He was an attorney and then tried real estate. But then you became a real estate agent. I guess you moved to Nashville when?
We've been in Nashville 21 years.
21 years, okay.
Yeah. So we moved here with, I'm an 8th generation Floridian, so I always like to say I'm a Floridian who is part of the Florida that used to be considered Southern. And
What part of Florida?
I am from West Palm Beach.
Okay.
My dad is from a mapped out town called Brooksville, Florida,
Okay.
which is between Tampa and Ocala.
Yeah.
And he is from a generation that called Miami. So I do consider myself Southern, even though I'm from Florida, and anybody from Nashville would say it's not a Southern state. But I disagree wholeheartedly.
So West Palm. So you must have really, because West Palm probably like exploded. I mean, I imagine when you were growing up there.
It did. Actually, in West Palm, I saw a lot of change. I left there in '85 to go to college and never went back. I kind of was done with West Palm. It's a very small town. It's like but when I left, some developer had bought up every block, including a couple towers that were built, not to be named today, but there was a lot of real estate bought up around my church there, and my church is now I guess it's the theater. That's now the city center, but I left in '85, and we basically had a blighted downtown from 1985 until probably around the mid-90s, when they started doing these kind of hill center type places in South Florida. And that's when they built everything around this old church, which I wanted to get married in, but couldn't because it was no longer church by the time I got married. And
Wow.
so
So
I've been around
I've
there.
got a brother who lives outside of West Palm, and it's really neat when you look at things on a map. You look at the suburbs here, you see streets with cul-de-sacs, right? When you look at like a map of those areas, a lot of it is streets with cul-de-sacs, but there's also like water channels that are cul-de-sacs too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's. I lived in an area that's called El Cid, so that would be more similar to where I live here in Nashville, coincidentally. But like Richland, Whitland, we had sidewalks. It's called the El Cid Center. It's between downtown. We could ride our bikes to downtown. We had a 12-foot sidewalk that went along the intercoastal, and you could ride your bike or roller skate back in the 80s all the way down to downtown West Palm Beach. And then at the end of my street was Mar-a-Lago, which actually was Emily Post's mansion when I was growing up. So that was a big change leaving there. But I left.
Just roller skate by and just pick up a little etiquette along the way.
Yes, a little bit. But I spent my childhood in West Palm, but my very first job was, I went south. My dad was a big insurance defense lawyer in Palm Beach.
Okay.
And had a very strong nepotism, I guess, policy. So I went to work for his biggest competitor
Ooh.
for the first 2 or 3 years of my legal career, and then ended up working down in Miami and living in South Beach in the 90s, and then tiring of litigation. So, and knowing that I wasn't very good at it. I mean, I did it for 7 years, but I hated it. So
That's got to be exhausting.
it was
I
exhausting.
mean, it's like a fight every day.
It was, and I'm not.
Like, hey, let's go to work and fight with somebody today.
I am opinionated, but I'm not argumentative, except with my husband.
Except with your husband. Well, you know, we'll see. So your husband is a developer here, and you all came to Nashville, and he developed the Adelicia.
Correct.
Probably with a lot of your input as well, whether he liked it or not. But that, I'm sure, has everybody been in the Adelicia? Yep. So phenomenal building, and then also developed 1212.
Yep.
And so you were involved in the Adelicia sales.
Yes. So when we moved here, I actually had a stint as a pharmaceutical rep. I worked for pharmacy and sold Celebrex for 3.5 years, which is
Okay.
kind of how I transitioned from law into sales. And then had my son when Pfizer was buying Pharmacia, so I got a year off paid, which was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever heard of. And then I had a baby on the hip and a baby in a bucket, and Ray was starting Adelicia. So I wasn't really that involved because I had 2 very small children at the time. But he said, I've hired these 3 people, one of whom is Sydney McCann, but I've hired these 3 they were all outside salespeople, but had no real estate experience. And he said, I need you to go get your real estate license like 2 weeks before Christmas, and with a 6-month-old nursing. And I was like, okay. And so I went to class for 2 weeks during Christmas break and got my real estate license, and I've been licensed since January of '06.
That's great.
So
And so you did a little bit of real estate, and then you kind of were not involved in it, but you
Yeah.
really came back in pretty hardcore a few years ago.
yes, so when my kids were both teenagers and I was finding that job unfulfilling, to say the least, I decided I did kind of the events when you guys were all selling 1212. So these guys all sold 1212. I wasn't really involved in the pre-sales, although I did, when I decided I was going to do this again, I re-upped my license, took the test again because it was cheaper than doing the CLE, and then walked around with Brian and you guys for a little bit and said, okay, I think I'm going to do this for real this time. And that was 2015.
Yeah.
And then we sold that out, and you guys sold that out in 16 months. So then there really was nothing for me to do anymore. So I started doing resales with y'all, and I really started enjoying just that whole process, and more for me, really, it was not as much the listing side as the buying side, because through 1212, I was able to cultivate relationship with people who were calling in, trying to find a place in there, and converting a lot of people who were coming wanting to rent into, I don't think you should rent. It's, why would you rent if you can buy, your mortgage is going to be so much less. So I started to enjoy that, and I enjoyed the people part of it. I
Yeah.
think that's what I like the most.
And so you've done very well. I mean, you've sold some really big properties. You've done some really creative things too. I mean, I don't remember if this ever worked out, but it was the first time I've ever heard of anybody actually trying to do a swap.
Yeah.
Basically, one person wanted to buy this guy's house, this guy wanted to buy their place, and you were trying to coordinate this whole swap.
We didn't get the swap done, but we got a better. That client, he kind of, I guess and that was in terms of a very big learning experience for me, because it was not in a condo situation. It was a single family home, and it was with another village agent who he probably, I don't like to argue, but we definitely, we had a few times where I was like, I'm just trying to do the right thing by everybody. We can figure this out. Like, there's got to be a solution. I don't want to hear, no, we're not doing that. I want to hear, this is the solution, and here's how we're going to make everybody happy. So I kind of.
So persistence is a virtue.
I am
of
very
yours.
persistent, maybe, or.
But so talk about how does that persistence? Because I agree. I think you are very persistent. So you meet somebody. You've been here 21 years. You built a good network. You meet somebody who you think that they're on your warm list. They look like they've got a change coming, or that they're have some interest in making a move. How do you follow up without being pushy? Because I think a lot of people have this fear of being pushy, and there's a balance between pushy and persistence, right? So how do you walk that line?
I do keep in touch with. There's a few clients, like the client swap. I ended up doing 3 deals with him in a 9-month period.
Wow.
Because he bought the Oakland house, then rode his bike out, sent me a text, rode his bike out to Franklin, and we saw the house we were going to swap. But that didn't work out. But that actually parlayed into like 4 or 5 different clients now through him. But
so taking care of one person and really figuring out what their network is.
And his wife and I got along well, so I just will follow up and see how they're doing. I send something out every Christmas to all. I send handwritten notes to all my clients immediately after any transaction. I'll follow up with them. I probably do a little bit more than I should often, but I just feel like this comes from having been a lawyer on an hourly rate, knowing how much time I used to bill in order to get paid not very much. So I look at what we make as a realtor and think that's a lot of money. And so I feel like I owe a lot to my clients, from walking them through, if we're going to buy this house with a basement that's got water running through it, we're going to figure out how I'm going to help you find the person that needs to get that fixed. And I was involved with them throughout that process. I even met the foundation guys there. And I do that for all my clients because they're the most important thing, not necessarily what I'm making. And I think I focus more on the service I'm giving rather than any monetary reward. And that has worked well for me.
Yeah.
Because if I'm focusing on how much I'm giving up, or you're talking about like percentages, I do think we show value, but I think you can't show value if all you do is sell their house and they never hear from you again. So
So your value really extends beyond the transaction.
I think it does, or at least I'm trying, because that's what it also creates
Sounds like
the
it's working.
relationship with those people, and it creates referrals that are a natural consequence.
Right.
So,
and some of those
it's
stats
working.
the last piece of those stats weren't in your stats, Karen, but a lot of those agents, a lot of those sellers say, or buyers say, absolutely, we loved our agent, we'll definitely use them again. But the reality is very few actually do use that agent again because they never hear from them again, right? I love it when I get a call from a seller who says, or a buyer who's been in their house a couple of years, and they're like, hey, this went wrong, right? Sometimes I might be scared, but it's like, that's a great opportunity for me to say, oh, no worries, call, Joe Smith or
Yep.
whatever who can fix that. If you don't know, look, ask around, look at Village Exclusive. So that's
And-
awesome.
And it doesn't always work out. I mean, I definitely have had clients that just, for whatever reason, even though I kept in touch,
Yeah.
and even though on the front end I told them everything they should have done, and they refused to do it, and I even offered to get them the contractor, and they said no. A year later, they hired another village agent, and he sold it for them and did everything I had told them to do. So you just kind of go, okay, it just wasn't a good
Yeah.
fit. Don't take it personal. If it was a client that I'm constantly, I think I would take it more personal. But you just, I don't know. You do what
Yeah, you're never going to win all of them. So.
not going to win everybody's favor. So.
Well, if you have any Florida questions or any questions on how to sort of follow up after the transaction, I think you're a great resource for that. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Kendi.
It's good to see you.
All right, so real quick, we got this came out. I'm going to send this out afterwards, but whoo, look at some of these appreciation rates we have gotten. This is through the second quarter 2021, and 11% in 2020 and almost 10% in 2021. Again, the average used to be 4.6% over the last 40 years. Now it's raising because of the strong appreciation in kind of the new Nashville. It's up to 5.2%. So this is just a different way of looking at that, housing prices. This is a good reminder that even if the market levels off some, we still have appreciation pretty much every single year, and there's very little chance of depreciation. And so if somebody is thinking about buying something now versus later, home prices are going to be up later. Chandler Whitley posted something that was really cool if you look at her Instagram about this. Kind of average home price now versus forecasted home price next year, average rate now versus forecasted rate next year. It's like you're actually taking a hit if you wait until next year and you can buy this year. So
Is the 9.9 annualized?
it is annualized, yes. So it's that.
So it's actually double that.
Actually, hang on one second. So the 9.9, that's a good question. The 9.9 is only through,
Second quarter.
yes. Woo!
Crazy.
That's a good point. So that'll be interesting to see. So 9.9, you're right. That actually, usually that number is so low, it's obvious. But yes, data reported 8/31, so that's through the first half of the year. So I don't think this will happen, because that's a lot, but if that continued to go up the second half of the year, then in theory that could be double that, but we shall see. So I'm going to send this out. I'll try to send out an FAQ about how to interpret all that as well. Tip of the week, don't forget to vote. If you want to vote, if you're in Nashville, Greater Nashville Board of Directors, there's an election coming up, so you've got until October 18th to vote for that. Some people have asked how to add your Village Exclusive or any of those pages to the right side or the left side under your shortcuts right here. So if you just look at your little shortcuts page, then there's a thing, if you hover over it, there's a little button that says edit, and you can add any pages that you follow over to that, just so you can click on it. You can also just go to facebook.com/groups/Village Exclusive and find that. So article Code of Ethics, and then we do have a presentation, so can you make this pretty
This
quick?
will make it brief.
All right.
Following up on our Code of Ethics series that we've been doing, Article 8, this is going to be an easy one. Escrow money's got to be kept in a separate account. We made it easy for you here at Village. We don't hold trust money.
Nice.
So all good on that one. Have your title company hold it. Just remember, if you're doing Airbnb or holding money for other people, make sure you keep that in a separate account. And also, a good reminder here, get it in writing.
Get it in writing.
Get it in writing and give it to everyone, and get it in writing in a manner that everyone can understand.
Yes. If it's
How
not
many
written-
times last week have we looked
So many times.
at things trying to figure out what were they really trying to say?
That's right. If it's written in the property disclosure as something that is included, but it's not in the contract, which one wins? Contract.
Contract.
Right? So make sure it's in the contract. Reasonable care, all documents pertaining to purchase are kept current. So make sure to stay within the timelines.
So when
And
your
then-
contract's about to run out and everybody still wants to buy and everybody still wants to sell to that person, make sure you get an extension.
Yep, get an extension in writing. Anything in
Simple.
9.2, reasonable efforts to explain the nature and disclose specific terms in a contractual relationship. So disclose who you're representing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Reminder, code of ethics class. And then we've got some improved email coming. We're going to get some info about that. But the villagetn.com setup is moving from that what's called a pop account to an exchange account, which is really awesome. Which means if you use the Village TN email, and the new setup is going to be, so if you delete it on your phone, just like Gmail, right? If you delete it on your phone, you move something, it'll move everywhere. Your calendars can sync. Much more dynamic system that will be great. So no disruption to service. There's nothing you really have to do. It'll happen overnight. Your inbox and folders are going to be migrated automatically to the new account. If you only receive forwarding emails, that'll also be migrated. So basically, you'll get some information about this, but just a heads up that that's coming, and just making things better. So thanks, Jeremy, for that. And then coming soon. So Newell, you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Cool. So we've got some. I've got your. You want to sit over there? And I can run your slides. Newell Anderson, everybody, how you been?
It's good to see you.
It is good to see you.
I've been good.
Newell, you're a fixture of Village.
Fixture.
I feel like I don't see you that much anymore. So
It feels so interesting you've been back here on this side. I've been watching you this whole time.
that's good.
We've got a new project that we're excited about in Madison that is coming up. They're starting the work now, and it's going to deliver the first phase in September 2022. It's called the Yara, and you can click to the next slide, and I'll kind of give you the Yara, just in case people are probably wondering what the heck is the Yara. You may know. One of our developers is from Australia, and Melbourne specifically, and the Yarra is a river that runs through Melbourne. And this project has kind of a water tie-in as well. The Gibson Creek kind of forms kind of in the center of the development, so Yarra, that's kind of where it originated from. But it's up in Madison, just north of Due West, and just north of the old Memorial Hospital, which is currently undergoing a huge redevelopment plan, almost like a neighborhood-sized redevelopment plan. And so we're just, if you don't know where that is, that's Ellington Parkway turns into Graycroft. You go up north into that lower part of Madison. And this project, thank you. That's good, yeah, perfect segue. So you can see phase one kind of in the upper right corner there. It's nicely tucked away off of Graycroft and between a proposed park that's going to be connecting to Chadwell, and then this kind of protected zone where the creek forms. So you've got these great little green spaces on both sides, and then it'll have some trails that have connectivity to the Memorial Hospital redevelopment plan, which really will, kind of give some direct connectivity, walkability, accessibility to it.
That's awesome. So, we were talking about sort of outdoor space, COVID. This is more dense housing, but you've got a lot. Having a creek and kind of woodsy area.
Yeah,
that sounds really nice.
We're trying hard. So it's a mixture of 2, 3, and 4 bedroom townhomes. So they're not condo, they're HPR. The 2 bedrooms are only available for owner occupants, and you can kind of click to the next page. They're going to start actually at $285. This cell says $289.9, but they're going to start at $285, but they're owner occupants. The other units, the 3 and 4 bedroom units, are really open. We don't have to have a cap on investors, so they're for owners or investors or whoever would like it. Again, I think I hit on green space. We got a couple dog parks, some outdoor fitness stuff. And then you can click to the next page. It's kind of a rendering. It's going to have concrete floors on the main level, kind of open plan. The first phase that we're releasing is a surface parking product. If you can go back to the non-colorized on the left, that's going to be garage parking. So the next phase, coming later, we'll have townhomes with garages underneath it.
So this is surface parking here. So you just park right out in front of your space, probably.
Exactly.
And then that'll be more. These look like maybe a little bit larger.
They are, and they're taller because they're going to have the garage underneath it, so to be a little larger in scale. We are starting to do pre-sales this week, so exciting.
All right, so this is not, you can't walk into one of these yet.
Nope, it's
What do you
just
think your estimated timeline is? Or do you have to sell some
first phase summer of
Okay.
this summer, 2022, and then kind of rolling on through there.
That's pretty amazing. All right, so 2 bedrooms to this Hawthorne, I guess. Is that your more affordable? Like,
That's the. It's kind of scattered into that plan. So you've got them. If you go back to the site plan, you can see the orangey red ones. Those
Yeah.
are the Hawthorns.
okay, and so 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 1,255 square feet, and that's for $285.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
we feel so too.
To be
yeah.
that close to town and have access to all that green space. And is that, when you say affordable, are there income restrictions
No.
aligned with that, or is that just?
The pricing is set in accordance with income restrictions. I think the Barnes Fund I believe it's the Barnes Fund that kind of set this one.
Okay.
But there's no verification of the buyer assets other than the commitment to be owner occupied.
Got it. So
they do
no
not want
investors on the little
Yeah,
ones.
exactly.
So that's
And
pretty awesome. So if
flip
y'all
to
have
the-
somebody who's in that price range, I mean, this is hard to find that price range right now.
It
So
really is.
That's
and you're getting into a neighborhood that really is on the cusp of completely changing because this, our Yara is happening. Then the same developer, it's ZMX is developing it. Has an apartment going in, so there's more residential next to that. And then the Memorial Hospital is something that's going to be a mixture of residential, office, retail, commercial, grocery. Entertainment. There's some really big things on the horizon with that, and that's already kind of starting through planning at this point. So the neighborhood's really behind it, the councilperson's behind it. So this whole neighborhood, you're getting in on the front end.
I remember when I first joined Village 17, 18 years ago, and I met you, y'all were doing a project called 12 South Towers, which 12 South was not then what it is now. And you could buy, it was like 99,000, 149,000, or 199,000. These 3 different plans.
And tower is a liberal use of the word
Tower,
tower.
yeah, it was 12, but they were townhomes, right? I mean, and so
They had
but
a bit of a.
I was close to buying one of those things, and then I didn't, and then I was a listing agent for one a couple years later and sold it for like $100,000 more, just because again, 12 South was on the cusp of changing a lot. What's that?
I sold one for like 385. 45?
3. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's so. But the point is, there is a little bit of risk, I guess, buying something that is, and I don't know this neighborhood as well as you do, but that's
Always good to be on the front end.
always good to be on the front end. Yeah. So.
And the last sale, there's the sales team for the City Living Group that's selling it. So I think everyone's going to get an email today with more information and links to the website and floor plans and finishes and so forth. So you can follow up with me after the meeting, or anyone who's watching online, you'll get the email and you can let us know if you have questions.
So pre-sales are starting soon this week. All right. So this is really key info, because if you want to push this out to your clients, get with Newell or Deborah, Latina, or Giovanna, and any down payment requirements or like deposit requirements.
It'll be like a 3% for owner, 5% for investor.
Okay, so 3% for owners, so on that 285, less than $9,000.
Say again?
How many investors are allowed?
There's no, there are horizontal property regimes, so it's not a condo. We don't have a cap restriction, so there's really nothing in there.
Except for those 285,
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
caveat
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
Any other questions you all have? Yeah, Virginia.
It is an HOA, yes. There's an association. I believe it's about $200 a month to take care of the grounds and whatnot. Some of those details are honestly still being kind of ironed out, so more on that soon. The specific amount.
Any questions coming on the chat, Jeremy? All right, so if y'all have questions, either online or in person, talk to Newell afterwards. Deborah, did I see you here? Anyway, talk to anybody on this page, and then get that out to your clients soon.
Thank you.
All right, that's it, y'all. Thank you very much. So stay tuned. We're running a little bit behind, but Hard Conversations, that's starting in just a minute.
Right now.
Right now, we're gonna ease right into it.
Conversation.